Goodness with care from our villages, Arokya Milk.
Welcome to episode 12 of Mahabharata with Anuja. Very happy to have you here. Now the Pandavas were in exile and it had begun in earnest. They were pretty depressed about their situation naturally, and one of the worries they had was whether they'd be able to win back their kingdom after the period of exile. The argument was that Duryodhana would empty the treasury to win himself very powerful allies, and they may not be able to respond. And at that point, Arjuna said that he would do everything in his power to make sure that his arsenal had celestial weapons which would even the odds so that they could win back what was rightfully theirs. Now in the previous episode, I told you how Vedavyasa had taught Yudhishtra the secret science of pratismriti. Now he taught that to Arjuna to help him, and using that very secret science, this pratismriti, Arjuna was able to journey at the speed of thought, and he reached the Himalayas, and he decided to perform penances, win the grace of the gods, and ask them for the gift of celestial weapons. Now as he was making his way along the pathway in the Himalayas, he met a very old man standing there, and the place was called Indra. Now this old man came there and he said, "This is a place of peace, all holy men come here, and you've come here with all your weapons, it's very unsuitable, please leave your weapons here and go ahead." Now Arjuna would part with an arm or a leg, but he would never ever part with his famous bow, the Gandiva, or any of his weapons. So he told this man very politely, no thank you, I also come here in peace, I'm not going to hurt anyone, but don't ask me to leave my weapons behind. And then this man revealed himself to be Indra, his heavenly father. And Indra said, "Why do you want to suffer here with the mortals? You're a very mighty hero, you have access to heaven, come with me and you shall enjoy all the delights of Amaravati." Now ordinarily people would be tempted because Arjuna had to spend all this time in exile, right? But he had that single-minded focus, so he said, "No, my brothers depend on me, and I will not betray them. I will find no happiness in heaven if I accompany you. So thank you, Father, but allow me to proceed." And Indra immediately blessed him. He said, "Once you've seen Shiva with your own eyes, all your wishes will be fulfilled." So Arjuna carried on, and they say he performed very severe penances. He did not have food or drink or anything at all. He just lived on leaves, and soon he gave that up as well. Now Arjuna's penances were so intense and severe, even the gods were scared. They were worried that the three worlds would burn up from the heat of it, and they approached Shiva and Parvati and asked him to do something about it. Shiva smiled and he said his heart is in the right place, so I will definitely give him what he wants. I will pay him a visit soon. Shiva and Parvati went where Arjuna was in the guise of hunters. Now at that precise moment, a Rakshasa in the guise of a bow, he charged towards Arjuna, and quick as thought Arjuna released an arrow, and at the exact same moment the hunter also released an arrow, and the bow was hit by both arrows and it fell down dead, and it revealed its true identity as a Rakshasa. And Arjuna, when he saw any evidence of archery that was on par with his, he would always get angry. So he turned to the hunter and he was very rude. He said, "That bow was charging towards me. I can take care of myself. I don't need your interference. It is my kill, so do back off." Now the hunter just smiled. He said, "Don't embarrass yourself. The kill shot was mine, not a puny mortal like yours. Get lost from here." And Arjuna said, "Who do you think I am? I am Arjuna, the third Pandava, and only Shiva can defeat me in battle." And with these arrogant words, he challenged the hunter to a duel, and soon he started releasing arrows from his Gandiva. Now to his horror, not a single arrow found a mark, and the hunter was completely unharmed. All the arrows just bounced off him, and he just smiled. He said, "Is this the best you can do?" And Arjuna, to his surprise, he noticed that he felt very tired and there were bruises and he was bleeding. So he dropped his weapons and he started wrestling with this hunter. And this wasn't a very good idea, because again the hunter stood proud and tall after pummeling him to within an inch of his life. And Arjuna felt as though he was at death's door. And he noticed that his hands were bleeding and they were shaking as well. And with these hands he fashioned a Shivalinga from the mud there, and with these same hands he tied some flowers together, made a garland, and he placed it around the Shivalinga to worship it. When he looked up, he saw that the garland was around the neck of this hunter, and then only the truth dawned on him, and he threw himself at Lord Shiva's feet. He said, "I'm so sorry, I can't believe I fought with you." Shiva embraced Arjuna with a lot of warmth and he blessed him. He said, "You will achieve everything you set out to, and I will personally teach you how to use a lot of my favorite missiles and weapons." And he gave Arjuna some lessons then and there. And Arjuna was over the moon with happiness. He couldn't believe his good fortune. And at the end of his lessons, he worshipped Shiva and Parvati, and both of them left the place. And he was still thinking about how lucky he was when all the celestials led by Indra, they appeared before him. Now these were the lokapalas. There were 4 of them, and they're supposed to be the guardians of the universe. So you have Indra, Yama, Varuna and Kubera. Now these 4 celestials, they gave their favorite weapons to Arjuna. Indra gave him his Vajra, which is the thunderbolt. Yama gave him his danda. Now this is the staff of death and a much feared weapon. Kubera gave him his antardana, which is just a spear. And finally, Varuna gave him the Varuna Pasha, which is a noose, a magic noose. Now, having received all these weapons, Arjuna thanked them and he worshipped them also. And before taking his leave, Indra said, "I will send my charioteer, Matali. He will personally escort you to Amaravati and you will be my guest of honor there." So once again, Arjuna was beside himself with happiness, and when Indra's charioteer arrived, he was able to visit the great city of Amaravati, and there everyone gave him the respect which is due Indra's son. And while he was there, he did not indulge himself too much. Now the city of Amaravati offered a lot of pleasures, but he knew his brothers and his wife Draupadi were in exile and enduring a lot of hardship. So he indulged only sparingly and he devoted himself to his studies. So first he went and Indra instructed him to learn music and dance under Chitrasena, a very famous Gandharva. He said, "You will find this very useful, so learn this along with weapons law." So Arjuna learned this as well, and all the celestials taught him about warfare, and all the weapons used by the Devas were given to him. And Arjuna worked very hard, and soon he was a warrior without equal. And then Indra summoned him. He said, "It's time you repaid us for all the favour we've shown you. You must destroy the enemies of Amaravati." And Arjuna also, like Bhima, he liked a good fight. So accompanied by only Matali, he went out, he defeated the Danavas, the Nivatakavachas, enemies of the Devas. And there was even an underwater city called Hiranyapuri. He destroyed that city as well. And when he returned, he was given a hero's welcome. Indra had lavish celebrations in his honor, and he was invited to share Indra's throne, which was, you know, an unheard of honor for a mortal. Now there was a sage who came there. His name was Lomasha, and he looked at Arjuna sitting on Indra's throne, and he was thinking, does a mortal truly deserve this? And Indra immediately said in front of everyone who'd gathered there, he said, "This is not an ordinary mortal. He's an incarnation of Nara, and Krishna is an incarnation of Narayana. They are champions of Bhumi Devi. They've done lots of help for humans as well as the gods as well as the asuras. So he's definitely worthy of the seat." And Arjuna also sought the blessings of the sage, and he made a request. He said, "Please go back and tell my brothers that I've achieved everything they've sent me to do. I will join them shortly." And he also asked the sage to take them on a Tirtha Yatra, which is a pilgrimage. Lomasha agreed, and he left. Now there's a very interesting incident after this, that among the dancers during the celebrations, there was a very, very beautiful Apsara called Urvashi. and Arjuna kept glancing at her because he knew a little bit about her history. She was the lover of one of his ancestors named Pururavas, and Arjuna knew this story and he was wondering how much of it was true. And Indra saw his son looking at Urvashi, so he sent for her and he said, he's earned it, why don't you entertain him? And Urvashi dressed herself in her finest garments and she looked absolutely exquisite, and she went towards Arjuna, and Arjuna was horribly embarrassed. He was thinking, oh my god, if she's the lover of my ancestor, then she must be my great something grandmother. And he told Urvashi, I do not feel that way about you. And she said, no man has ever refused me. I'm not your ancestor and all those things and all those rules which you mortals follow, we celestials aren't bound by them. I love you, so you have to love me back. And Arjuna said, please don't talk like that, mother. And she was like, mother, no man has called me mother, so you're not a man. And then she cursed him and she said he will lose his manhood. Arjuna was horrified. He went to Indra and Indra started laughing. He said, you called her mother and grandmother and all. No man has done this, you're very special. And Arjuna was thinking, okay, the loss of my manhood is not a laughing matter. And Indra said, don't worry, I'll soften the curse. It will be very useful for you when you spend the last year of your exile in hiding. And after that, your manhood will be restored to you. So Arjuna was quite happy about that. And now let's go back to the Pandavas, the remaining 4 brothers who were in exile, and they were very sad without Arjuna with them. Draupadi, especially, since she loved Arjuna the best, she started pining for him, and Bhima missed seeing the smile on her face, and you know, they were missing him terribly. But one sage, Lomasha, came. He told them, Arjuna has achieved everything, he's brought glory to your family name, don't worry, he will join you all soon. And he started taking them on this Tirtha Yatra, this pilgrimage, and he also took Yudhishtra to meet sage Brihadasva. He was very skilled in the art of gambling, and he taught Yudhishtra the secret of always winning at dice. Now this is called Aksha Hridaya, and Bhima told him, thank God, now even if Yudhishtra gambles again, at least we won't lose. And they started feeling better about their situation. And as they were journeying through really rough terrain, again Draupadi's feet started bleeding. Delicate feet, she's a princess and a queen, so the brothers were very upset. And then suddenly Yudhishthira remembered Gatotkacha, and they all meditated on him, and he arrived with the Rakshasas, and they started carrying the Pandavas wherever they wanted to go, so their journey was much easier. And at one point in their journey, one day there was this pleasant breeze and a really beautiful flower with a lovely smell. It landed on Draupadi's lap, and for the first time in a long time she smiled and she said, this is so beautiful, Bhima, can you get some more for me? And Bhima could never say no to Draupadi, so he said, whatever you want, I will get it for you. Now these flowers were magical flowers called Saugandhika. And they belonged in Kubera's garden, which was guarded by fierce Yakshas. But Bhima was unafraid as always, and he just went there determined to return with a huge armful. And as he went there was this old monkey, and its tail was blocking his path. He said, do you mind moving? Can't you see I'm in a hurry? And this monkey said, I'm old, I'm not young and strong like you. Just move my tail aside and go. So Bhima was grumbling, and he placed both hands to pick up this thing, and it wouldn't budge. And he's thinking, I'm Bhima, I have the strength of 1,000 elephants, what's happening now? And he kept trying, and it looked like he was going to lose his teeth or something, you know, because he's clenching his teeth and he just can't lift this thing. And then suddenly, you know, Hanuman stood in front of him in the form he'd taken to make the leap across the sea to Lanka. And Bhima realized they were brothers. Hanuman's father was also Vayu, the wind god, and he was Bhima's father as well. So the brothers embraced, and Hanuman said, I will tell you how to get these flowers. And then he also said, during the battle of Kurukshetra, every time you roar, I will add my voice to yours and all your enemies will tremble in fear. So Bhima was very happy to receive this blessing, and he returned with an armful of flowers for Draupadi, and she was very happy. And shortly after that, Matali drove Arjuna to them, and the brothers were reunited. This concludes episode 12. I hope you liked it. If you did, please hit the like button, share and subscribe to our channel. The next episode, I'm going to tell you a very, very interesting portion about how the Pandavas spent their time in hiding, and it also features the mighty deeds of the eunuch Brihanala. So do be sure to join me next episode. Thank you so much.
Goodness with care from our villages, Arokya Milk.